Luke 2, verse 8 to 16. And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them. And they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Saviour, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you: ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. And it came to pass, as the angels were gone away from them into heaven, the shepherds said unto one another, Let us now go even unto Bethlehem, and see this thing which is come to pass, which the Lord hath made known unto us. And they came with haste, and found Mary and Joseph and the babe lying in a manger.
Mog's Christmas Calamity by Judith Kerr. One night, Debbie said, Do you know, Mog, when you wake up in the morning, it will be Christmas, and there will be presents and lovely things to eat, and you will have an extra big egg for your breakfast. Mog dreamt about the big egg. It was very big, and it was up in the sky. Mog had to fly up to get it. But some birds came. They wanted to eat the big egg, and one of them wanted to eat Mog. Mog flew as fast as she could, but the bird came after her, and suddenly she woke up. Something was stuck to her tail. She tried to shake it off, but it stuck on, and then it went into the fire, and made a little fire of its own, and 2 more fires on the rug. Mog thought, I'm getting out. She ran out into the street. Some people saw her as she passed. What's that thing with the fiery tail? Said one. Perhaps it's a comet, said another. I'd better ring the fire brigade, said a third. Suddenly, Mog heard a horrible noise. Then she saw the thing that made the horrible noise. She thought, oh no, I'm going home. But the thing came after her. It chased her all the way to her house. 2 men jumped out. They had a big yellow snake, and they shouted, There's the fire! Suddenly the snake spat. It did a big spit, and there was water everywhere, even on Mog. Then Mr. and Mrs. Thomas and Debbie and Nicky came out of the house. They did not come out of the door, they came out of the window. They said, thank you for saving our house." The fireman said, "Don't thank us, thank your cat. That cat led us to your house. That cat is a hero." Some neighbours had come to see what had happened to Mog's house. They all told each other that Mog was a hero. Then it began to snow, and they all went home. Mr. and Mrs. Thomas, Debbie and Nicky went to get dressed. Then they looked at the Christmas room. Everything was wet, and some things were black. "I'm sorry," said Mr. Thomas, "but Christmas will have to be a bit different this year." They were all very sad. Mog was sad too, but then Nicky saw something. The neighbours were coming back. They were carrying things and smiling. They said, "We thought we'd help you clean up, and then we'd all share Christmas at your house." It was a wonderful party. There were presents and lovely things to eat, and there was even an extra big egg for Mog. "That was the best Christmas we ever had," said Nicky. "Can we do exactly the same next year?" "Well," said Mr. Thomas, "perhaps not exactly."
Good people all, this Christmas time, consider well and bear in mind what our good God for us has done in sending his beloved Son. With Mary holy we should pray to God with love this Christmas day. In Bethlehem upon that home there was a blessed Messiah born. The night before that happy tide, the noble Virgin and her guide were long time seeking up and down to find a lodging in the town. But mark how all things came to pass, from every door repaired alas, as was foretold. Their refuge home was but a humble ox's stall. Near Bethlehem did shepherds keep the flocks of lambs and feeding sheep, to whom God's angels did appear, which put the shepherds in great fear. Prepare and go, the angel said, to Bethlehem, be not afraid.
"A Merry Christmas, Uncle! God save you!" cried a cheerful voice. It was the voice of Scrooge's nephew, who came upon him so quickly that this was the first intimation he had of his approach. "Bah!" said Scrooge. "Humbug!" He had so heated himself with rapid walking in the fog and frost, this nephew of Scrooge's, that he was all in a glow. His face was ruddy and handsome, his eyes sparkled, and his breath smoked again. "Christmas a humbug, Uncle?" said Scrooge's nephew. "You don't mean that, I am sure." "I do," said Scrooge. "Merry Christmas! What right have you to be merry? What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough." "Come then," returned the nephew gaily. "What right have you to be dismal? What reason have you to be morose? You're rich enough." Scrooge, having no better answer ready on the spur of the moment, said, "Bah!" again, and followed it up with, "Humbug!" "Don't be cross, Uncle," said the nephew. "What else can I be," returned the uncle, "when I live in such a world of fools as this? Merry Christmas! Out upon Merry Christmas! What's Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without money? A time for finding yourself a year older but not an hour richer? A time for balancing your books and having every item in 'em through a round dozen of months presented dead against you? If I could work my will," said Scrooge indignantly, "every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart. He should!" "Uncle!" pleaded the nephew. "Nephew," returned the uncle sternly, "keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep it in mine." "Keep it?" repeated Scrooge's nephew. "But you don't keep it." "Let me leave it alone, then," said Scrooge. "Much good may it do you! Much good it has ever done you!" "There are many things from which I might have derived good, by which I have not profited, I dare say," returned the nephew. "Christmas among the rest. But I am sure I have always thought of Christmas time when it has come round, apart from the veneration due to its sacred name and origin, if anything belonging to it can be apart from that, as a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time. The only time I know of, in the long calendar of the year, when men and women seem by one consent to open their shut-up hearts freely, and to think of people below them as if they really were fellow passengers to the grave, and not another race of creatures bound on other journeys. And therefore, uncle, though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe that it has done me good, and will do me good. And I say, God bless it."
A Visit from St. Nicholas by Clement Clarke Moore. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And mamma in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled our brains for a long winter's nap, when out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new-fallen snow gave a lustre of midday to objects below, when what to my wondering eyes did appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, with a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment he must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. "Now, Dasher, now, Dancer, now, Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all." As leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky, so up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with the sleigh full of toys and St. Nicholas too. And then, in a twinkling, I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a pedlar just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke, it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowlful of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night."
The tree of life my soul hath seen, laden with fruit and always green. The trees of nature fruitless be, compared with Christ, the apple tree. His beauty doth all things excel. By faith I know, but ne'er can tell the glory which I now can see in Jesus Christ, the apple tree. For happiness I long have sought, and pleasure dearly I have bought. I missed of all, but now I see 'tis found in Christ, the apple tree. I'm weary with my former toil. Here I will sit and rest a while. Under the shadow I will be of Jesus Christ, the apple tree. With great delight I'll make my stay, there's none shall fright my soul away. Among the sons of men I see there's none like Christ, the apple tree. I'll sit and eat this fruit divine. It cheers my heart like spiritual wine. And now this fruit is sweet to me, that grows on Christ, the apple tree. This fruit doth make my soul to thrive. It keeps my dying faith alive, which makes my soul in haste to be with Jesus Christ, the apple tree.
Wounded, bleeding day and night.
Keeping Christmas by Henry van Dyke. It is a good thing to observe Christmas Day. The mere marking of times and seasons when men agree to stop work and make merry together is a wise and wholesome custom. It helps one to feel the supremacy of the common life over the individual life. It reminds a man to set his own little watch now and then by the great clock of humanity which runs on sun time. But there is a better thing than the observance of Christmas Day, and that is keeping Christmas. Are you willing to forget what you have done for other people and to remember what other people have done for you? To ignore what the world owes you and to think what you owe the world? To put your rights in the background and your duties in the middle distance and your chances to do a little more than your duty in the foreground? To see that your fellow men are just as real as you are and try to look behind their faces to their hearts hungry for joy. To own that probably the only good reason for your existence is not what you are going to get out of life, but what you are going to give to life. To close your book of complaints against the management of the universe and look around you for a place where you can sow a few seeds of happiness. Are you willing to do these things even for a day? Then you can keep Christmas. Are you willing to stoop down and consider the needs and desires of little children? To remember the weakness and loneliness of people who are growing old? To stop asking how much your friends love you and ask yourself whether you love them enough? To bear in mind the things that other people have to bear on their hearts? To try to understand what those who live in the same house with you really want without waiting for them to tell you? To trim your lamp so that it will give more light and less smoke, and to carry it in front so that your shadow will fall behind you. To make a grave for your ugly thoughts and a garden for your kindly feelings with the gate open. Are you willing to do these things even for a day? Then you can keep Christmas. Are you willing to believe that love is the strongest thing in the world? Stronger than hate, stronger than evil, stronger than death? And that the blessed life which began in Bethlehem 2,000 years ago is the image and brightness of the eternal love? Then you can keep Christmas. And if you keep it for a day, why not always? But you can never keep it alone.
Sweetness and God.
An extract from The Tailor of Gloucester by Beatrix Potter. In this story, a tailor has been tasked with making the most beautiful coat for the Mayor of Gloucester to wear for his wedding on Christmas morning, but the tailor falls ill and cannot complete it. Luckily, the grateful mice, who the tailor had previously rescued from his bad cat Simpkin, come to his rescue. The sun was shining on the snow when the tailor got up and dressed, and came out into the street with Simpkin running before him. "Alack," said the tailor, "I have my twist, but no more strength, nor time, than will serve to make me one single buttonhole, for this is Christmas Day in the morning. The Mayor of Gloucester shall be married by noon, and where is his cherry-coloured coat?" He unlocked the door of the little shop in Westgate Street, and Simpkin ran in like a cat that expects something. But there was no one there, not even one little brown mouse. The boards were swept clean, the little ends of thread and the little silk snippets were all tidied away and gone from the floor. But upon the table, "Oh, joy!" the tailor gave a shout. There, where he had left plain cuttings of silk, there lay the most beautifullest coat and embroidered satin waistcoat that ever were worn by a Mayor of Gloucester. There were roses and pansies upon the facings of the coat, and the waistcoat was worked with poppies and cornflowers. Everything was finished except just one single cherry-coloured buttonhole, and where that buttonhole was wanting there was pinned a scrap of paper with these words, in little teeny-weeny writing, "No more twist." And from then began the luck of the Tailor of Gloucester. He grew quite stout, and he grew quite rich. He made the most wonderful waistcoats for all the rich merchants of Gloucester, and for all the fine gentlemen of the country round. Never were seen such ruffles, or such embroidered cuffs and lappets, but his buttonholes were the greatest triumph of all. The stitches of those buttonholes were so neat, I wonder how they could be stitched by an old man in spectacles, with crooked old fingers and a tailor's thimble. The stitches of those buttonholes were so small, they looked as if they had been made by little mice.
Out of your sleep, arise and wake, for God my mind will have his take. All of a maid without any make, of all women she beareth the bell. And through a maid as fair and wise, now man is made of full great price. Now it is made to man's service, and at this time all this be fair. Now man is brighter than the sun, now man in heaven shall run. Blessed be God, this game is begun, and his mother the Empress of hell. That ever was throne, now is he free, that ever was small, now great is she. Now shall God deem both thee and me unto his bliss if we do well. Now man he made to heaven went, now man the earth to him they went. He that has fallen now is our friend, this is no nay that I would tell. Now blessed brother, grant us grace, as doomsday to see thy face, and in thy cause to have a place, that we may there sing thee Noel.
An excerpt from Cider with Rosie by Laurie Lee. The week before Christmas, when the snow seemed to lie thickest, was the moment for carol singing. And when I think back to those nights, it is the crunch of snow and to the lights of the lanterns on it. Carol singing in my village was a special tithe for the boys. The girls had little to do with it. Like haymaking, blackberrying, stone clearing, and wishing people a happy Easter, it was one of our seasonal perks. By instinct, we knew just when to begin it. A day too soon, and we should have been unwelcome. A day too late, and we should have received lean looks from people whose bounty was already exhausted. When the true moment came, exactly balanced, we recognized it and were ready. So as soon as the wood had been stacked in the oven to dry for the morning fire, we put on our scarves and went out through the streets, calling loudly between our hands, till the various boys who knew the signal ran out from their houses to join us. One by one they came stumbling over the snow, swinging their lanterns around their heads, shouting and coughing horribly. "Coming carol barking then?" We were the church choir, so no answer was necessary. For a year we had praised the Lord out of key, and as a reward for this service, on top of the outing, we now had the right to visit all the big houses, to sing our carols and collect our tribute. Our first call, as usual, was the house of the squire, and we trooped nervously down his drive. A maid bore the tidings of our arrival away into the echoing distances of the house. The door was left ajar, and we were bidden to begin. We brought no music. The carols were in our heads. "Let's give 'em Wild Shepherds," said Jack. We began in confusion, plunging into a wreckage of keys, of different words and tempos, but we gathered our strength. He who sang loudest took the rest of us with him, and the carol took shape, if not sweetness. Suddenly, on the stairs, we saw the old squire himself, standing and listening, with his head on one side. He didn't move until we'd finished. Then slowly, he tottered towards us, dropped 2 coins in our box with a trembling hand, scratched his name in the book we carried, gave us each a long look with his moist blind eyes, then turned away in silence. As though released from a spell, we took a few sedate steps, then broke into a run for the gate. We didn't stop till we were out of the grounds. Impatient at least to discover the extent of his bounty, we squatted by the cowsheds, held our lanterns over the book, and saw that he'd written 2 shillings. This was quite a good start. No one of any worth in the district would dare to give us less than the squire.
The Boy Who Laughed at Santa Claus by Ogden Nash. In Baltimore there lived a boy. He wasn't anybody's joy. Although his name was Jabez Dawes, his character was full of flaws. In school he never led his classes. He hid old ladies' reading glasses. His mouth was open when he chewed, and elbows to the table glued. He stole the milk of hungry kittens, and walked through doors marked no admittance. He said he acted thus because there wasn't any Santa Claus. Another trick that tickled Jabez was crying boo at little babies. He brushed his teeth, they said in town, sideways instead of up and down. Yet people pardoned every sin and viewed his antics with a grin, till they were told by Jabez Dawes, "There isn't any Santa Claus." Deploring how he did behave, his parents swiftly sought their grave. They hurried through the portals pearly, and Jabez left the funeral early. Like whooping cough, from child to child he sped to spread the rumour wild. "Sure as my name is Jabez Dawes, there isn't any Santa Claus." Slunk like a weasel or a martin, through nursery and kindergarten, whispering low to every tot, "There isn't any, no there's not." The children wept all Christmas Eve, and Jabez chortled up his sleeve. No infant dared hang up his stocking, for fear of Jabez ribald mocking. He sprawled on his untidy bed, fresh malice dancing in his head, when presently with scalp a-tingling, Jabez heard a distant jingling. He heard the crunch of sleigh and hoof crisply alighting on the roof. What good to rise and bar the door? A shower of soot was on the floor. What was beheld by Jabez Dawes? The fireplace full of Santa Claus. Then Jabez fell upon his knees with cries of "Don't!" and "Pretty please!" he howled. "I don't know where you read it, but anyhow I never said it."
"Jabez," replied the angry saint, "it isn't I, it's you that ain't. Although there is a Santa Claus, there isn't any Jabez Dawes."
Said Jabez then with impudent vim,
"Oh, yes, there is, and I am him. Your magic don't scare me, it doesn't, and—"
Suddenly he found he wasn't. From grimy feet to grimy locks, Jabez became a jack-in-the-box, an ugly toy with springs unsprung, forever sticking out his tongue. The neighbours heard his mournful squeal. They searched for him, but not with zeal. No trace was found of Jabez Dawes, which led to thunderous applause, and people drank a loving cup and went and hung their stockings up. All you who sneer at Santa Claus, beware the fate of Jabez Dawes, the saucy boy who mocked the saint. Donder and Blitzen licked off his paint.